Does branding your company really pay off? Should you really be considered about branding your company, your business? Is it really worth it? You do want to listen in for the next few minutes because I do have an awesome guest here with me today who is an experienced construction management consultant. He's been in the construction world for a while and he has tons of experience. So he's going to give us the direction that you should be going when it comes to branding with your company. And if you're just joining in, do say hi in the comments, say where you're from. You never know who might be willing to connect with you. So today we have Leo. Welcome, Leo. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hello, it's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. So based on your experience, do you think we should really be concerned about branding? And I know branding is a very wide topic and there's so many areas of branding now, but what would be your best answer, your best general answer then?
For branding, well, branding, I wouldn't say it's important. I would say it's crucial,
Okay.
especially in today's age where in the COVID environment, first we started out as business owners, we ran home to watch Netflix and we figured, okay, this is going to pass in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
No, we're still in it and we still can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So, um, and I was just on a call with someone who just was in that predicament. Figured, okay, it's going to be a couple of weeks, a couple of months tops, and I'll just hibernate for a while, and eventually I'll get back into it. The
Hmm.
problem with that is the aggressive companies didn't go home to hibernate, didn't go home to
Hmm.
sleep,
Yeah.
did see the virus as a huge opportunity, just like the people in the Great Depression saw the Great Depression of 29 to 33 as a humongous opportunity to get filthy rich,
Hmm.
right? So yes, branding is absolutely crucial, and branding is even more crucial when your competitors are home watching Netflix.
Okay.
So it is absolutely crucial.
So my other question is branding is very wide. So when it comes to branding, persons think about a logo, they think about having business cards, they think about putting, there's so many options, putting probably a placard on your vehicle, website. What really works, or what should we should as business owners, CEOs, entrepreneurs, the focus should be on all the areas, or is it that some work better than some? What would you suggest in that area?
Well, it's really all of the above. I mean, I wrote an article and I did several videos about entrepreneurs buying vehicles one piece at a time. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's so true. But you wouldn't go to, your Mercedes dealership or your Ford dealership and say, well, I only want the windshield right now. I'll come back next year to get the front bumper, right? You would
Yeah.
never do that, but yet we do that by building businesses one piece at a time. So
Mm-hmm.
going back to branding, yes, it's all of the above. It's not focusing on the business card. It's not focusing on your website. It's not just focusing on LinkedIn. It's not just focusing on Facebook or Instagram and so on. It's about having a holistic strategy and and implementing that strategy on a day-to-day basis to get from where you are to where you want to be
Mm-hmm.
strategically.
Yeah. Do you find though that some methods are working more than some? Because there are a lot of schools of thought. So I've heard some experts say, don't be concerned about a website. There's some will say, make sure you're in the top ranking when it comes to the Google search. You need to be listed. Some will say, don't be concerned about business cards anymore or flyers or sending those in the mail. Some persons are saying you got to be on social media, Instagram, Facebook. What are you finding based on your experience? I mean, you've seen it over the years, the changes. What are you finding now that are the areas that business owners, CEOs, entrepreneurs should be focusing on, the key areas? Or
The
would you agree that it's still all of the above? Or should they focus on, let's say, probably the top three then, that they should definitely be focusing on?
Well, see, I don't. Unfortunately, entrepreneurs or business owners don't have the luxury of focusing on the top three. I'm sorry, that's like saying I'm only going to work between 7 and 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
We don't have that luxury, but we do have the luxury of prioritizing, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So to prioritize things, if you were to prioritize things and you don't have assistance and you don't have a strategy and you don't have a lot of time, then I would focus on LinkedIn. So
Okay.
if you can only do one thing really well, then LinkedIn should be what you do really well.
Okay.
Some people say, well, I get more clients from Instagram and Facebook, then keep doing that
Hmm.
because to get a return on investment on LinkedIn requires that you know the system, that you implement strategies, that you develop relationships. Um, LinkedIn tends to be a more educated consumer, and they're not going to allow you to get away with the bullshit you get away with on Facebook,
Hmm.
right? So it's a more educated clientele. But I think that's who you want because the more educated clientele are the more affluent, more spendable cash, and the ones that are going to give you the profit margin on the jobs you're going to do, whether you're an interior designer or a contractor or a painter or flooring, whatever you do. Do you want to work for the pennies or do you want to work for the dollars or the $1,000 bills? Do you want to do the $5,000 jobs or the $1 million jobs or the $100,000 jobs? So that's really the distinction between Facebook and LinkedIn. Where do you want to play? Do you want to play with the big boys or do you want to be the big man in the small pond?
Okay, great. I'm getting a feedback. I don't know if it's your connection.
Oh, I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, it's a little muffled, like when you're
Oh,
talking. Just started, like just in your.
oh, I still don't hear it. So
Yeah, it's when you talk. I'm hearing it when you talk.
when I talk, so I should shut up then.
I'm seeing, yeah, let's see if it gets better.
Okay. I
So,
haven't done anything differently in the
yeah, I'm not
last.
sure. It might be, I don't know. It's kind of weird because it was
Okay.
fine, but I just started hearing it. But let's keep going. I'll see.
Okay.
So the other thing, when it comes to strategy, there are some persons who will say, I don't want to get into it, I'll just outsource. But I've seen a lot of burns happening, persons getting not only scammed, but you think you're investing in marketing and branding and you're not seeing the returns, you're not seeing the conversion into clients. What are some of the, I would say, guidelines in developing these contracts? Would you say that you need to have a success fee? You need to say if you don't get a client, you're not going to pay? What are some of the guidelines? Because so many persons are now offering these services. It's amazing. So, how do you know what's the best, or just a few guidelines in selecting that person to support you in the whole area of branding?
Right. Okay. That's a great question. I would start by asking the right questions. If you don't know what the right questions are, figure out what the right questions are, such as what are the deliverables? What
Yeah.
will I get in 30 days or 45 days? And have a starting point and a finish point, and you should be able to measure. Um, but don't overdo it because some of these strategies take 6 months or 3 months to see a return. And there's a huge difference between owning a marketing system and doing pay per click, as an example. And to
Yeah.
go back to your previous comment about websites, in my opinion, are reactive because you don't want to be reactive. You want to be proactive in terms of creating the need for your client. Creating the need for your clients, so you are the expert standing in front of them when they ask a question. So there's a lot of different strategies, and I know I'm confusing a lot of things, but this is the reason why when you build a house, the first thing you do is you start with a blueprint,
Mm-hmm.
right? Nobody would dare build a house or even build a garage or build anything without a blueprint because the blueprint allows you to eliminate mistakes before you start.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a business blueprint. There's an aggressive marketing system, and these are all systems to align or design the problems out. And that's really where you should start because the question should be, where am I? Where do I want to be? And
Okay.
who should I be looking for to help me get from A to B, right? Because we can't be experts at everything. So
Definitely not.
look for recommendations. I mean, we have 15 employees and 30 subcontractors, because obviously I believe I'm not an expert at everything, and neither should you, right?
Mhm.
So if you're
Exactly.
good at painting, if you're good at interior design, if you're good at building kitchens, that's great. Stick to what you're good at. Find an expert who is good at pay-per-click or building websites or creating aggressive marketing system, and have them do that, and hold them to your expectations, and make sure you communicate your expectations, because if you have a hidden agenda, you're not communicating the other party, there's going to be disappointment, right?
Exactly.
So make sure you communicate, this is what I expect. Is that reasonable? Should I expect 10 leads a week? Should I expect 10 leads a month? Is that realistic for a kitchen business or whatever business, right? So communicate that.
And you made a great point there with the deliverables, because you might hear this company, some persons, they'll hear, okay, you need to be on Instagram, you need to ensure your top rank in the Google search, you need to be, you know, have a website. However, engaging a company to do this, that's just one thing, but what will you get after doing that? Are they going to
Right.
say, okay, based on your website, you should be getting in this number of leads, a range from there? So it's taking it to that the next step to ensure that you are clear about the deliverables, because you can see so much money just being used up quickly and you're not seeing the returns, right? So it is
Very
so
true.
so important. Another thing I wanted to touch on is branding versus building relationships, because there's some school of thoughts which will say, and I see it often, nobody's going to buy from you straight up. They need to build a relationship, need to get to know you. But the reality is that building a relationship takes time. And depending on what you're purchasing, you're not going to, you might just go to a website and say, based on how I see them present their website, probably the reviews, I'm ready to engage with this supplier. I'm not going to, wait to build a relationship. How realistic is it building this whole relationship? Because think of it, there's sometimes, and it might be an extreme example, we walk into some of these stores, we're just purchasing, we don't have a relationship with them. We're
Right.
purchasing, or if we're referred to a specialist, a doctor, we are building a relationship. We say, okay, we know their track record. So is it really worth then being concerned about building a relationship, or should you just go straight, put it all there, focus on branding? What's the trade-off then? Probably that's the word. Yeah, trade-off.
Trade-off. I think it really depends on the dollar value of your sale, your average sale. I mean,
Okay.
painting a bedroom obviously requires less of a relationship than if you're building, a $10 million house for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's a balance, right?
Mhm.
And the reason you want to deal with educated people is they understand that balance. They're not going to
Mhm.
ask, to invest a lot of time to get to know you if they're only going to use you for a day or a week or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And educated people are so much more reasonable than than the other side, right?
Yeah.
People keep talking about clients from hell, but it's in how you build that relationship. It's how you manage the client's expectations. It's how you design the relationship. Yes, you can design a relationship, because if you don't, that's when you get clients from hell, right? You got to manage the client's expectations. But this is something that your staff should be doing, not necessarily the business owner, right?
Mhm.
Because I find the business owner builds the business around himself, then he says, well, I can't get a break. Well, you've designed the business around you. Why would you expect to get a break, right?
Yeah.
So so it's about being realistic. It's all about figuring out, where do I want to be. A couple of calls ago, I had a gentleman on the phone whose goal was to play golf 3 times a week. Well, why haven't you designed to do that for the last 10 or 20 years, right?
Yeah.
If that's your
Exactly.
goal, right, design it. It's not
Mhm.
that difficult, but make sure you have the infrastructure in place and the experts in place. I mean, you and I always have the conversation that business owners don't have the proper bookkeepers and the right CPA advisors, and they're really being let down by experts. So, I mean, if it takes 40 interviews to hire one painter, why doesn't it take a commitment to find an expert, right?
Mhm.
I mean, especially an SEO expert, you're getting 10 or 15 emails a day or a week from these people. 99.99% of them, the reason why they're sending you or bombarding you with emails is because nobody wants them, right?
Yeah.
But it's the people who are not sending you the emails that are really busy.
Mhm.
Those are the people you need as experts, and those are the people you need to find who the referrals are. And on LinkedIn, you should be asking a lot of questions. Can someone recommend a great bookkeeper, or a great painter, or a great SEO expert, or a great marketing company? You don't see a lot of that on LinkedIn, and I'm wondering why.
Yeah.
Why aren't we asking the right questions, right?
Yeah, that's true because I do see that often on Facebook. But I don't see that a lot on LinkedIn. And I think, with the whole culture and the dynamics, what's expected to be on LinkedIn, what's not, that does play a part. So for sure. The other thing I wanted to quickly talk about is, we've spoken about branding as it relates to the website, the, LinkedIn strategy. What about the appearance, your personal appearance? Because I do know at times persons will say, based on how you look, they might not, okay, be willing to get into business with
Oh,
you.
we are
And
so judgy as human
yeah.
beings.
So
We
how
are
does that, or how you talk, how is that, what's the best way to manage that? And I'm not talking about the extreme areas where it could be based on race, all that. I'm talking about just appearance overall, a long beard, short beard. How do we what's the best way to manage that in how we are presenting ourselves to prospective clients and for projects and negotiations?
Yeah, I had a client. We call this crucial conversations. I had I had a client who wanted to produce his own videos and promote his own product and had a scruffy beard, and I said, we should test this, because I didn't have the heart to say, you need to clean your beard or do something with it, right? Or get a haircut or something, because and he immediately got defensive and said, that's off limits. We can't discuss that. Then I said, well, we got to understand that we're going to acknowledge 10% or 2% of your sales are going to be lost because of that. And if you're okay with that, then fine. But you can't just ignore that we are pushing people away. We push people away in many ways.
Mhm.
Our LinkedIn profile pushes people away. The way we answer the phone pushes people away. The way our demeanor, our body language, I mean, there's a lot of things that push people away. And that's part of our differentiator, which is part of our branding, which is part of marketing, and everything fits together. Everything. Your
Mhm.
reviews, the way you talk, and some attitudes, the way we respond to other people and how we're hostile to other people on LinkedIn. And we're not always aware that our future clients are going to read what I just wrote. And why want to say that?
Mhm.
Should I, save that comment and think about it overnight and maybe edit it in the morning and resend it? But we don't think like that. We're emotional and impatient people, and we want instant gratification. We want it now, and our opinion is worth more than your opinion, and that's the way it is, right? That's
Yeah,
who we are.
and it's a valid point you made, how we are, it's not, branding is just so wide. It's just, and you touched on an important point there. How do we communicate? How are we treating others?
Nonverbal
And
communication is
yeah,
crucial. Yeah.
and even our team, how are we, those who are working for us already, how are we connecting? How are we treating them? And of course, ensuring that we have those communication styles that are not degrading anybody, that are not putting them down, that are respectful, filled with integrity. So there are just so many different spheres when it comes to branding that, yeah, you do have to be mindful of them. I still do agree.
Yes. In terms of branding, it seems to be a buzzword, and it has been a buzzword for many years now. But
Mhm.
in order for us to understand what branding is, branding for me is the wow factor. how are you standing head and shoulders above your competition? Are people looking at your profile, looking at your truck, looking at your business cards, looking at your website, and they're saying, wow? If they're not saying wow, it means you need an extra $500,000 on the marketing budget, because you're not saying wow. You're not getting free articles and mentions by the news media because of your wow factor. If you don't have the wow factor, it means now you got to buy that wow factor, which is
Yeah.
pretty expensive, which means you're going to have to do that forever. So your branding really has to say something about, I trust you, I want to do business with you. Because if your branding doesn't say that, it means you got to develop those relationships you were talking about, and you got to invest months or years into those relationships, because you have to hit a client 10, 20, 30, 50 times before they acknowledge that you exist and the product that you're delivering. And finally, after you hitting them so many times, then they will start saying, well, maybe they can help me. But if you have the wow factor, now you're skipping all that and you're going directly from meeting to saying, can we do business? Right?
Yeah.
Once you have that wow factor, and this is why we spend so much time on developing that wow factor or the differentiator to get you there 5 or 10 years sooner. That is so crucial, I think.
Exactly. And it's a message and a reminder for those who probably heard this or, never heard it before, that when we talk about branding, it's not limited to websites or just your business card. It's so many different areas of you personally as the CEO, the owner, your team as well, and how you're positioned on social media and the search engines and so much more. So, Leo, in closing, what are the steps for those who are listening on? What's the next step? I have my company, I have several companies. I thought I was okay. I realized I do need help with branding, or I might be just starting out because everybody's at a different level. What would you say are the must-do steps to get started on this road to having that wow brand?
Okay. I think the first question you have to ask yourself, and this is very difficult, you have to ask yourself, am I an extrovert or an introvert? And if you're uncomfortable being on video or being in front of the camera or being the face of your company, then maybe you should sub that out to an expert company. You should get a spokesperson for your company, which is not that difficult. I mean, on Fiverr, you can hire people for, a couple $100 to do a couple of videos for you and really set your branding apart. We hire comedians on Fiverr all the time to do that for some of these clients. So you got to make the decision. Am I going to do this, or am I going to hire someone to do this? But it's not whether you should or should not. It's whether you should do it or you should sub it out. But the question you really should be asking is, what level do I want to be at? Because I'm the type of person who asks, when was the last time you nearly got arrested for a publicity stunt for your company?
Yeah.
Right? And people will get arrested. No, I said nearly got arrested, right? There's a difference, right? There's still that safety zone. But, and again, we're going back to the differentiator. If you're not that close, if you're not getting attention, if you're not getting comments, if you're not getting haters, if you don't have people following you and hating everything that you do, until you get there, you're still under the radar. You got to have at least 10 haters before you know you're starting to get there, right?
Yeah.
So being shy and I've got a lot of clients who say, Leo, my company's not that. My company has always been under the radar. And I'm saying, do you understand that you're building this glass ceiling, and that's why it's taking you 25 years to try and get above this glass ceiling? That mindset, how much is it costing you to have that mindset, right?
Exactly.
And it takes years to change that mindset, literally years to change that mindset. So I guess one of the first questions you have to ask is, how important is it for me to be a success? How
Mhm,
important is it for me to have my family to be proud of my accomplishment? How
mhm.
important is that to you? If you can say it's very important, then you need to do something different, because if nothing changes, nothing changes, right?
Exactly.
So have conversations on LinkedIn. Ask stupid questions. Ask a lot of questions. Eventually, one of the questions you're going to ask are going to be a good one. And you're going to get a good answer. You're going to meet some people, right? You're going to get some good advice. You're going to get some good strategies, and eventually, it's going to snowball. Success snowballs into more success,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
So
and I find too that it's important to just be yourself as well, because you know
be
that.
vulnerable.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because I've seen so many changes, attacks over the time, but what really matters in the end is that you're being your honest self, you're growing, you're learning, and you're
Yeah.
realizing that you can lean on support for others and get the expert help and support that you need as you continue your journey for
Yeah,
sure.
join mastermind groups, join CEO clubs, just join every group, just invest in your education, read every day. I mean, there's strategies that you can do yourself. Absolutely. There's a lot of
Mhm.
things you can help yourself with. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much, Leah. How can people reach out to you and find you if they want to
LinkedIn.
continue
LinkedIn,
the conversation?
right? LinkedIn
Yeah.
and
So you welcome messages on LinkedIn. I know some persons, okay, their inbox is not open, but you welcome messages.
I get tons of messages and they're always welcome. But one last note that I want to touch on:
Hmm.
running a business should be a freaking adrenaline rush.
Hmm.
If you're not getting an adrenaline rush every morning, if you're not getting up at 4:30 in the morning and say, I got to get to work, I love working, I just love doing what I do. If you don't have that, there's something wrong with the way you designed it. So
Yeah.
get some help. And the construction industry is the most profitable industry. There's no reason for you not to love what you're doing. I mean, love
Yeah.
what you're doing, right? So
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Leo. And thank
always
you,
a
everyone.
pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Those who are live, those who are watching the replay, do remember to share this with other CEOs, other business owners, because it's so important that this information is available to as many persons as possible. There's so many areas to branding, and it's quite a journey. But the first, a journey from million steps begins with the first step. So thank you
Yep.
so much, Leah, and we'll be on again. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We're signing off now. Thanks, guys.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Yes.